So I just want to have a little talk about, as a child and as we were all children once upon a time, we could all get away with telling lies. Every kid lies. I remember I used to lie when I would steal money from my mother's purse and go down to the local corner shop and buy lollies and grab her a Coke out of her money that I was spending. So if she found out it was me, it would soften the blow because I would give her a present, the Coke. And I know people will relate to lying as children. And there's all reasons why we lie. We want to be accepted, we want to fit in, we don't want people to think badly of us. There's all different reasons. And I relate lying to my criminality. When I was a criminal and a thief, I always used to lie when if I did plead guilty in court. I would lie about the reasons why I had done the crimes. For mercy from the court. I would tell them anything. I did it because I couldn't help myself. I did it because I needed money. I did it, the crimes, because I was a drug addict. And the magistrate or the judge hopefully would have some mercy on me in being accountable for my actions. What I find interesting is that in society they call that criminal code law. And there's other forms of law in the court system. There's commercial law and family law and other forms of law. But in those jurisdictions, as everybody out there will know, those jurisdictions are seeking some truth. In respect to the crimes that are committed, or who's wrong and who's right in family law or commercial law, and they use precedents and all forms of examples to find the consequences of penalties in that incidence. But the law is there in our society for a reason. And the law always proclaims responsibility. Responsibility. You are responsible under the law for what you do. So as children, as I said, we lie and we're forgiven. You know, the consequences aren't that bad. In the children's court, just an example, to the adult court, you get treated completely different. But when you get in the adults court, and if you keep doing the same behaviours over and over and over again, and you end up in the adults court, you get treated a lot more harshly for the consequences for your behaviour. So, with the so-called law in this world, there is a justice system. That's all over Western worlds, where they hold people into account to see if they're truthful or not. But what about not having the jurisdictions of courts? Are we still responsible for our own personal truths? You all know what I'm saying about, you know, when you're telling a lie. You know, when you're saying one thing and doing the other. There's something within your soul that goes, that wasn't true. And if you're not consciously aware of that, that's probably worse for you. And has anyone ever thought that the consequences of that naivety to us telling lies, or being aware that we're telling lies, has consequences universally by the laws universally that we live under, nature's laws. There is laws, you know, about doing the right thing, being honest, being loving, being thoughtful, being considerate, forgiving people, having compassion for others, being a nice person, not being sarcastic, not being cynical, accepting, caring, thoughtfulness, consideration, just to name a few. We need those laws to abide by, because if we didn't have that stuff and loving people in our societies, it'd be absolutely anarchy out there, yeah? And trust me, I know the difference. I have lived anarchy. But why don't we acknowledge that from our meanness and not seeing these laws in society, that we are wearing the consequences of our unhappiness by the laws in society, not society as such, but universal, where there's a higher being that doesn't resonate with lying. There's a higher being that doesn't resonate with having motives. Or there's a higher being that doesn't resonate with you not being loving. Or there's a higher being that resonates with not being nice to other human beings. And that's there. And you can't see it, but it is law. It is law. And that's what keeps our societies balanced. Without the good stuff in people's attitudes and behaviours, we couldn't have societies that we have today. But we don't take that stuff into consideration because we don't believe we are responsible for our own actions. Oh, we'll accept a court of law to impose consequences on us, but the consequences that you get from not being a decent human being to other people, and to develop yourself to understand that every action that you do has a reaction. We don't take that into account because we can't see the consequences for it, but we live it. We live it. When I was a thief, when I was a liar, when I was mean to other human beings, when I didn't have empathy, when I didn't have compassion, when I was selfish, when I was critical, and many other terrible traits that I had, I wore the consequences from it. And the consequences from it was struggle. There's a massive payoff when you can take stock of yourself and develop yourself and see your shortcomings and see how you're behaving towards other people. There's consequences for it, and you can't see it, but universally you must pay those consequences. And that's a law. That's a law within this universe, a goodness law. There is good and bad. And good, in good actions of loving and caring and thoughtfulness and consideration and forgiving people and accepting people and being nice to people. And there's a reaction to that, but there's also from those actions, but there's also a reaction from acting in a way where you're mean, you don't care, all you do is think of yourself, you lie, you disregard everything, you blame everybody for everything, you take no responsibility. There is so much power in knowing that you should take responsibility for yourself, for the way you behave and the way you act. And as an outcome of that, your life is what it is. You project your life from what's in your soul. So if you want to lie, you keep going, you're going to pay the consequences for that. If you want to blame people for everything, you're going to keep paying the consequences for that. If you want to thieve, you'll pay the consequences for that. If you say one thing and do the other, you'll pay the consequences for that. If you are mean to other people, you'll pay the consequences for that. If you want to hurt other people, you'll pay the consequences for that. Maybe not straight away, but it will come back to you. And you have heard of karma. It's in there. It is in there. So whatever you put out, you might completely disregard the consequences for it. But if it's based on not good, and those things I said that are not good, the lying and the deceit and the stealing and all that stuff, it's going to come back. And you might think you've got away with it. But the law in this universe will hold you account. That law is bigger than any law that you know here in the criminal system, in the family court system, in the commercial system. There's so many forms of law, way bigger. way bigger. So you really need to take who you are into account, because the consequences of not doing that is either a long-term, a decent life, or struggle. And that's really serious. But just because you can't see the law in this universe, don't test it. Or if you have tested it, and we all have, and we ended up in bad places because of it, and we had to wear the consequences of it, change it. Change it before you keep wearing the consequences of your unhappiness. Change it so you can get to a happier place. Change it so you help other people. So be very aware of how you conduct yourself. You might have freedom in speech, but don't think you don't have freedom. Don't think that you have freedom in behaviour that you think has no effect, because everything you do will come back to you. So whatever you put out, you be very careful of what you put out there and how you conduct yourself, because it's going to come back. And it will come back either in a good way to you or a struggling way to you. Trust me, I know. I've lived both sides of that coin. And I've had amazing karma when I've put the effort in to look at myself all the time. And I've had karma when I've just disregarded everything and did what I wanted. Didn't care about what I was doing. But I wore the consequences of it. And you know you wear the consequences of what you do. So remember it. Have a good afternoon, and God bless us all. Take care now.